Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Victory Business Forum from Celebration Church, Johannesburg. We have been on a journey for the last year or so, talking about investments, talking about opportunities that we can pursue to create wealth for God's glory. And in the last few months, we've been talking about how do you exactly finance the ventures that you have, the ideas that you have. We looked at how you can finance using bank financing, which we talked about 2 months back. We looked at how you can bootstrap yourself. You can use organic growth and use all kinds of means to bootstrap and generate resources for you to be able to finance your business venture. And particularly right here in South Africa, there is another opportunity for which you can use to finance your venture, and that is the government is supportive of a lot of initiatives that create wealth, initiatives that build the economy, and in that process, they have a number of funds and a number of opportunities, empowerment funds that help stimulate growth in the economy, and this resulting in people who can start businesses or who can expand their businesses using these kinds of resources. Now, right at the start, I want to say not every financing mechanism is suitable for you, depending on where you are, what your plans are, and what your mindset is in terms of having partners, in terms of working with regulators, and so on. So what we are doing is just presenting you with models and opportunities, but it is your responsibility as the entrepreneur to say, okay, does this profile suit me? What I'm trying to do and what I want to do, will this work for me? So ours is to just put on the table the opportunities and be able to take it from there. So today I'm really honored to have with me on with us on this session, Mr. Tendai Mutore, who is a consultant in terms of so many things, but he also consults in terms of helping people access these kinds of funds that we are talking about. So he's an expert in this area. So he is going to do a presentation for us. Then in between, we will have a discussion. I may just stop him for clarity, ask a few questions, but we will have an in-depth discussion after his presentation. And then we are going to get into our usual 40-minute discussion on a Zoom session when he'll join us to be able for you to ask questions which are more personal of nature, but also clarity in terms of what will have been presented. So we are very excited, and I believe that this is a great opportunity. It's affordable financing. Of course, like every other financing, it has conditions, it has terms and things that we are going to look into. So if you don't mind, we are going to start by prayer, and then Tendai will launch us straight into the presentation. Father, we thank you as we come before your presence this morning. We believe you that you are the God who gives us the skill, the wisdom, the knowledge to create wealth. So we believe, Father, even as the seed of Abraham is the redeemed of the Lord, that you help us, you give us ideas and insight, even as we learn today about accessing government funding. Father, we thank you for wisdom. We thank you for understanding. We pray for Mr. Mutore as he presents. Father, give him the ability to articulate and to express and to give clarity to this model of financing for your glory and for the benefit of your people. In Jesus' name, amen and amen. So it's a pleasure today to welcome Mr. Tendai Mutore, who is a consultant, who has been consulting quite extensively in the area of financing and business in general, entrepreneurship in general. So today he is going to walk us through some of the aspects of accessing government funding, the different kind of funds that the government makes available. It's not charitable work. There are conditions. They do it because it helps create employment. It helps spearhead the growth of the economy. So the government has a vested interest to see your business do well, so that the economy will do well. So there are conditions and processes that will need to be followed. So Mr. Mutore will walk us through that process. Mr. Mutore, we are really privileged to have you with us. So please welcome and take it up right from here.
Thank you very much, Doc. It's my pleasure. And I pray that I'll be able to add value to the congregants and all the other participants of this program. Right, my presentation will basically follow an introduction first, then I will give you the requirements for funding. And after that, I will look at the commonly used funders which the government is using. On the introduction, I'll just give you my brief bio, who I am. I was born in Zimbabwe in Chivu, educated at University of South Africa, Africa University and University of Zimbabwe. I've got qualifications in business administration, over 20 years experience in the corporate world where I mainly worked in credit, financial accounting, IT, and general management. I've had more than 10 years experience now running a small SME consulting firm, which is specializing in capacity building, taxation, and accounting. This is where I now come in to look at what other business funding opportunities can we access from the South African government. Maybe before I go much further, I'll just give you a small disclaimer. This is a no obligation informational session, meaning for a more detailed analysis of your situation and financial needs, please talk to your financial advisor or accountant. This is just to help you out, give you a little bit of information, but if you need a little bit more, you may need to consult your financial advisor or accountant. Right. There are a number of funding types which you have access to through the South African government and its various agencies. Like what the doc has said during the introduction, it is the government's wish to make sure that small businesses grow. That way they'll create more employment, they'll take the burden of unemployment of the government. And their motto generally is, let's grow South Africa together. The types of funding which we do have is, number one, we have got a grant. A grant is more like a donation or a freebie. The government can give you the total amount or a portion of what you require, either to get your equipment or for your capital requirements or to buy a new business altogether. Then you have got the usual debt or loan type of funding. This is where you borrow from the government at concessional interest rates, and then you will have to repay according to the agreed terms of payment. And in some cases, we've got blended finance. Blended finance is a combination of both a grant, there's a grant portion, and then there's a loan portion. Meaning, let's say you want 10 million, the government can then say the 8 million is a grant. In other words, you don't pay it back. The 2 million is a loan. You have to pay it back with interest. So that's where we get a blended kind of finance. And equity. Equity is normally for the higher end where they buy shares in the business and they are interested in the day-to-day running of your business. And this will normally happen when the business has grown to a certain stage. Right. Now, when you are looking for funding, there are different purposes for which you may require that funding for. For example, you may need it for asset finance. These are flexible asset finance solutions, 12 to 60 months, where you get funding to just buy, let's say, your equipment. You may want to buy a building. You may want to buy anything which is an asset to grow or start your business. Then you've got growth capital, where you are an established business and you want to expand operations or explore new ways of doing things. I think you will recall that when COVID hit us last year, there were a lot of changes which we all needed to do. In some cases, we had to borrow money to enhance our new operations. And then we have the usual working capital, where you want to fund your stock, where you want to pay your creditors, where you want to pay your salaries and wages. You can also get funding for that purpose. And then there's the odd business loan, where you just want a loan from the government to help you out in an odd situation. You expected someone to pay you, but they haven't paid, or there's been a delay, and the government can help you with just an odd loan to fund the business, right? There are general requirements, funding requirements, and I've categorized them into two. The first category is what I would call a must-have. In other words, these are mandatory, these are compulsory. You can't run away from these requirements, you must comply. Number one, you must have your registration certificates for the company, and sometimes you must have industry-specific registrations. That is to say, for example, if you are in the pharmaceutical industry, you must be registered with the necessary board. If you are in the construction industry, you must be registered with the construction board, and so on. So you will need specific industry registrations besides the common registration. Then you must have the valid tax clearance PIN. We used to call it tax clearance certificate, but that has since changed. It's now a PIN. And you must have your FICA documents, which is your identity document or passport, proof of address, and your company must be domiciled in South Africa. That's very important. Government can only help you with funding if your company is domiciled in the Republic of South Africa. Then you must have your triple BEE to show you have got some South Africans in there. Maybe we'll look at this a little bit in depth at a later stage. Then, more importantly, your business plan. Your business plan must then highlight what you want to do. I'm not going to explain how to do a business plan. I think at some stage, you might have covered it or you will cover it, but it's one of the important documents which you must have. And your financial statements, normally for the previous 5 years, or if it's a fairly new company, you must have your financial statements or management accounts, the latest at the time of application. You also need to do your cash flow statements. The first year, it must be broken down month by month, and then annually for about 5 years, they will, each agency will tend to tell you what they require. And the most important aspect to look at when you are doing your cash flow is you must demonstrate your ability to repay the loan. It's very important. Even if your business plan is impressive, it's looking very good, but if you can't demonstrate that you'll be able to repay the funding which you are getting, it may be declined. So your cash flow statement, very important. Then you will need a breakdown of the required funding. Let's say you want part of the money for working capital, you must say so, you want to put things, you want to buy stock, you need a breakdown. And if you are buying equipment, you must have at least 3 quotations per each item which you want to buy. That's important. So these are your must-haves, things which are indispensable when you want to get government funding. Then in the second category of the requirements, I called these ones, it's nice to have. It's an advantage if you also have this. Number one is that you must have a good credit record. By you, I mean either the owner, the directors who are listed on your company registration documents, they must have a good or fairly good credit record. And your business and you personally, you must have an active bank account and should be able to produce bank statements. In that regard, what you normally encounter is that people don't bank money. And now when they want funding, they come to the agencies and they can't produce convincing statements. What I advise you do is, as part of your preparations for applying for funding, you can crowd pool and deposit money in your business and bank accounts over a period of at least 3 months. Then after that, you'll be able to generate some healthy or good-looking bank statements. Right. The third thing, which is a nice to have, is a statement of your assets and liabilities. Remember, in as much as the government wants to fund you based on your business plan or proposal, they also want to be convinced that you are a person of substance. What do you currently have? They don't want to give you money and the first thing you want to do is buy a car, buy furniture for your family. So it's sometimes a very good thing to have your personal statement of assets and liabilities. It will be helpful. Then the fourth thing to have is a good BEE score, 50.1 plus. So you should try to get a South African in. If you can, a black female, that will help you. Don't try to do it alone, especially if you are Zimbabwean on paper. Try to include a South African, and I would recommend a black female South African. This will help you with your BEE score.
Tendai, can I interrupt you on this?
Yes, sir, you are welcome.
Yes. I think two things I wanted to say is to say, number one, this is nice to have. While they are nice to have, when you apply, it's always better to actually go beyond the minimum they must have, because then it makes your application more attractive. And I think this issue that he's talking about in terms of including a black South African, I think it's important, and I think we talked about in the previous session, say, particularly if you want to access these kinds of funds, you must be somebody who knows that, look, I don't need to own everything. I must be willing to have partners so that they can help me leverage. So that leverage is important, but you also need to bear in mind, you are not going to just go and get somebody and think that is just a nominal. That person is going to be actively involved. And I think Tendai is going to talk about that, to emphasize, to say, you are not just going to get somebody who you think is just going to be a silent partner, because there's a way in which the government will look down on people who try to use people who are not involved just to access funds. So I think we need to bear that in mind, and we need to do the right thing. So you need to select the person, the partner, knowing that any partnership can create problems. So you need to manage that aspect as well. I'm sure Tendai is going to talk to that. But I think the most important thing I want to say is, don't exclude yourself simply because you're thinking, I don't want a partner. Now, imagine if you were to get 20 million rand to inject into your business. Even if you had a partner who is a 50%, it means already you have gotten 10 million, which you would not have access if you were just the two of you. So the idea is to say, be willing to have partners, but you need to do a good due diligence on who you are partnering with. I just wanted to throw that in. Sorry for interrupting you, Tendai.
Thank you very much. It's quite a valid and important point, Doc. The government is aware of BEE fronting. That is where you just pick someone. Sometimes they don't even know you have appointed them, and you want to use them to get a reasonable or a fair BE score. So they will check from time to time, they will verify with that person if he's involved in decision making. They may ask for minutes of your board meetings to check whether that person was actually sitting in the board meeting where you made decisions for the company. So it's very important that, like you highlighted, you choose someone who is worthy the salt, who can add value to the business, and who should actually participate and not just window dress your score. Quite a valid and important point, Doc. Right. Now, when you go to your business plan, the other nice to have is it must have emphasis on the creation of employment for South Africans, especially young people. So when you are preparing your business plan, make sure that you highlight that you are going to employ so many people. They will be young and they will be South Africans. That way your plan will be favorable and will be likely successful. Then you must also look at the corporate social responsibility plan. This is what else are you going to do once your business kicks in and you are now making money. Remember, the government is trying to make a number of families richer, not just one individual. So don't try to make money for yourself alone, but try to make money, distribute the cake with other people in the community. And you should look at things like providing bursaries, sponsoring schools around you, and so on. This should be in your business plan to then say, I've got a corporate social responsibility plan, and my success will benefit other people who are around me, not just the employees, but the community in general. It's very important. And then another thing, lastly, on the nice to have is a board resolution to then say the company has resolved to borrow money and they appoint Mr. X to sign all the paperwork to negotiate on behalf of the company with the government agency. And he has the full backing of the board or of the company. So yeah, basically those are the other nice to haves as you prepare for your application for funding. Now let's look at the traditional funders, the people you will see, the doors which you knock on. There are so many in South Africa. Almost every industry has got a specific agents where you can get funding. But I had to look at the core, the main, where you can approach for funding. But this list is not exhaustive. There are a lot more out there. I've started with CEDA. CEDA don't give you money. CEDA will just give you training, capacity building, marketing, networking, tender advice, and so on. Their main role, it's a government agency, their main role is to try and give you all the technical aspects of the business which you might require. So you can start off by talking to CEDA, and all these services are free. They will more like train you on what to expect, on what to prepare as you venture into your business or as you try to expand your business. Right. The first port of call I suggest will be SIFA, Small Enterprise Finance Agency. The reason why we call it our first port of call is that they are prepared to give you funding for as little as 50,000 up to a maximum of 15 million. And their funding can help with asset finance. It can be a term loan, bridging loan, or credit guarantee. They look at all that and are able to help you in that respect. So I think the majority of us will go to SIFA as a first port of entry. Then we also have the DTI, which is the Department of Trade and Industry.
Sorry, Tendai.
Yes.
Is it possible for us to just zero in a little bit into this SIFA? I think you did talk of the different kinds of funding, whether it's blended, whether it's a grant, whether it's the different facets. Would you be able to pinpoint to say, for example, would SIFA be one of those that would give a grant, or it's simply interest-based loans? And I think one of the things that we we wanted to highlight, you have mentioned it. You say that because these are government funds, it's normally concessionary, which means they are slightly lower than what you'd get in the banking sector. So if you can just talk a little bit more, particularly my interest, this is more personal interest. I know I had not asked about it when we engaged before. It would be good if you can give an example, for example, of if you worked with an individual or a small company to get funding for CIFA, you could make it like a case study without divulging names or details that would have identity, so that people can just appreciate the process and the kind of things that have been achieved.
Okay, thank you very much. From CIFA, we normally get loan financing. We don't get grants from CIFA, but loan financing. And what they require, these are very minimal things like I highlighted earlier on. So it's easy for each one to qualify as long as we have got a meaningful and bankable proposal. So maybe as part of the case study which we are talking about, recently during COVID, one of our clients came to us to help with the applications. He wanted to start making the PPE, the protective clothing, and he wanted to buy new equipment. So what we did is we got the quotations, we submitted the application, and they verify, they check a few trade references. Once you have your bank statements, which have got a record of you depositing money, the business is legit, then it's easy for them to approve it. It was approved for over 5 million. So yeah, at CIFA, it's mainly loans. But however, your individual circumstances will be looked into. That's why they've got different types of financing, like your term loan, your bridging loan, your credit guarantee, or asset finance.
Okay, and great. I think that's beautiful. In terms of asset financing, would they include, for example, property where you are doing business? Because I know some of the agencies will not fund property, others would. Would you be able to clarify on CIFA?
It will include property where you want to do business, depending on the type of business you are doing. Do you really need a building, or you are just buying it maybe to speculate and make more money out of the building? So they will look at all that. But yes, they can.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. Thanks so much. I think you can proceed.
Okay. Now we go to the Department of Trade and Industry. They normally provide grants. A grant, like I said earlier on, is a freebie, an amount which they just give you and they don't have to pay it back. But it's not as easy as that. The Department of Trade and Industry, they normally give you a grant to acquire equipment or an asset for the business, and you must contribute a certain percentage, which at this stage is normally 20%. So they'll give you 80, you pay 20%. And that's 80%, they don't transfer it to your bank account. They pay your supplier. So let's say you are involved in the trucking business, you want to buy trucks from Volvo, then you are going to pay the 20% to Volvo, the department will pay 80% to Volvo, then you get your trucks. So that's how the grants will work. They will also supervise you to say, since you got the trucks, are you making money? Are you using them for what you said you use them? Or maybe you wanted to just convert them for other use. There's a little bit of supervision after you get that grant. Right. So that's more like it about the DTI grant.
Yes, on that one, Tendai, just a question off the top of my head. So the 20%, I'm trying to be in the shoes of somebody who is out there. So suppose let's talk about the tracking example you are talking about, and we say, okay, I don't have the 20%. I would assume that it's possible for somebody to say, okay, let's find partners. Can I find partners who can contribute the 20%? And then on the basis of that, we have an understanding that I have done the project, I'm bringing this and so on, and bring in those partners. Or, which I think that people can do. But my question is it possible to blend these agencies in a structure? For example, I can go to CFA and I know that what I want to buy, I will need 10 million is my 20%. And then the other I may be able to get as a grant from DTI. Is it possible to structure an application to two agencies and be able to put together a structure? That's the question.
You are very right, Doc. It's possible. They normally call it wholesale lending, where you can then go to CFA and say, fine, I got a grant from the Department of Trade and Industry to get trucks from Volvo. They want me to pay 20%. I don't have it. Can you help me with the 20%? In other words, can you give me a loan for the 20%, which I'll pay you back? And the normal loan assessment procedure will kick in, and they will assess you if you can qualify for the loan. Then they will give you the loan. So you can blend the two, provided you meet all the necessary qualifying criteria.
Great, thank you. That helps a lot. You can proceed.
Okay, now we move on to the National Empowerment Fund, NEF. The NEF is more like now the medium to bigger term lender. You are looking at between 2 to 75 million. And this funding can be for acquisition finance, it can be for project finance, expansion, or for working capital. And the requirements are, as I highlighted.
If we slow down, Tendai, if we slow down right there, let's assume that our viewership varies. There are people who are knowledgeable, who are already in business, others who are going to start. So let's break down. When we say acquisition finance, we are talking about if you want to buy another business or a company, right?
You want to buy an existing business
what is involved?
or a struggling business.
Let's break down. Yes.
Okay. Acquisition finance is like you want to buy an existing business, which can be fully fledged, working and operational, or you want to buy a struggling business, which is maybe under rescue or whatever the circumstances. So acquisition finance is to acquire a new business. And then on project finance, you want to do a certain project. You have been asked to maybe build the Medupi 2 power station. You don't have the funding to build such a power station. So you go to them and say, I've got this project which I want to do. Can I get funding? Can I get some finance to put into this project? It's worth so much. I'll be able to repay you. Then they will consider your application. Expansion, I think, is self-explanatory. Mm-hmm. You want to expand the business. Maybe you got new markets. Maybe COVID hit and you now want to supply more sanitizers. So you want to expand your business, but you don't have the capacity to get more equipment. You don't have the capacity for more raw materials. You can still go there for expanding your businesses. You need more staff, more cars, and so on. Mm-hmm. And then working capital, again, self-explanatory. We are looking at, you want to pay your suppliers, you want to pay for your stock and other immediate needs for the business. They can provide funding for you. So that's more like it on NEF.
Yeah. Right. While we are there, Tendai, sorry, I just had this brain-head idea. Would you be able to give within ranges of the kind of cost of funds in these? So are we looking at? I know we did say it's concessionary. In other words, you said it's lower than the bank interest rate. but just to give an indication.
Right. I wouldn't want to really give you a lot of hope, but it can range from 3.5% up to 7.5. But this is individual and company dependent and also industry dependent. So, but these are indicative figures. Sometimes it's a little bit higher than that, but expect between 3.5 to 7.5 if you are very lucky. If you are unlucky, maybe it can go a little bit higher than that.
Yes, I think what we choose to call ourselves blessed rather than lucky and unlucky today. But I hear what you're saying. So the point, ladies and gentlemen, is that look, when you look at that range, 3 to 7%, it's a great range, but also it's remember they assess your risk. So each funder is going to say, this looks like a little bit risky, so they will they may give you, the cost may be a little bit higher. If they feel it's safe, then they go to the lower end. So it really depends on how your project risk profile looks like. So that is critical for you to bear in mind when you think about this. I think one more question that I wanted to ask Tendai on the NEF, would you be able to, just from your experience, do you have a project that would come to mind where you funded with, you held sourcing funds from NEF, which required a little bit of creativity, and they had funds. I think we talked about CIFA, which is up to 15 million. Let's think about something between 25 and 40 million rand. Can you think of a project that you may have helped around that, and then just give us a brief description, or it may be more than that. I just want people to have a perception of what is possible.
Okay, the only project which can come to mind right now is we had a group of ladies, I think about 5 ladies, who wanted to start a transport business across border. They wanted to buy some buses which would travel from South Africa to Malawi. So to start off with, they needed a fleet, which would then mean every day there's a bus departing Joburg to Malawi and vice versa. So yeah, we helped them acquire that, and the offices where the buses would park at night and so on. We helped them. It wasn't that big, but I think it was around 15 million then.
Okay. So you're saying you to get in this funding, you help them get the funding to acquire the buses themselves. And you're thinking, from what you are saying, if buses were traveling back and forth, they're looking about 10, a fleet of 10 or something like that. And then included was the actual property. They actually bought the property where they're parking the buses, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, all right. Thank you. I think that's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. Oh, wow. So ladies and gentlemen, you see, these things are possible. There are ways that you can, the government can help you along your journey, because as they help you, you are helping them, because the government is more interested in reducing unemployment and in facilitating the growth of the economy. So if you are a value adder, the government will find you as a partner. Like Tendai said, that look, let's grow South Africa together. If you have a mindset, if you think, oh, I'm a foreigner, or I'm this, particularly if you focus too much on this mindset of, oh, you know what, xenophobia and things like that, you can talk yourself out of opportunities. But if you begin to think in the light of saying, look, how can I join hands with people of like-mindedness, or people who are, including locals, how can I make a value? As you do that, by adding value to others, you receive value yourself. So these are opportunities that are incredible. So I think National Employment Fund, we are saying up to 75 million, and ye aptly covered the kind of things that can be covered. So we go on to the next one.
Maybe just another highlight from what you have just said on the National Employment Fund. They are also giving a lot of money for people who are engaged in farming and those who have got rural development projects. If you want to develop something in the rural areas, be it around farming, be it around technology such as satellites, or you want to put in some solar panels and develop the rural areas, they are considering that they've got a number of funds within the fund which can be accessible for specific needs, funds for women, and so on. So yeah, it's quite an interesting fund to look at, the NEF.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. If we now move on to the IDC, IDC is like the big brother, and this is where you really talk of big businesses here. Like their funding shows they can give you up to 1 billion maximum, but you must also contribute something. And in most cases, IDC will want some equity in your business. They want some shares. They want to be involved in the management of the business because of the figures which they are putting in. So IDC, I would say, it's for the companies which are no longer small, but for the big organizations which want to expand. Or if you have a very big idea, which you think will need more than 75 million, then you can head to the IDC. They can still give you loans, which is debt. They can, like I said, they will most likely require equity. And when you are buying some assets, like the Department of Trade and Industry does, they don't pay you cash, they pay your suppliers. So it's very important to know that. And if you really want to gain out of that, it's up to you with your suppliers. They can guarantee any trade finance. They do that. Venture capital, you want to join another business and venture into a certain project, IDC can help you. So IDC is like for the big brothers. Most of us, we are playing around CIFA and NEF. That's where we are at this stage as startups, as small and medium enterprises.
Great. Thank you so much, Tendai. I think one of the things I want to emphasize here is, like Tendai said, this is assembling of the traditional common funds that are there. There are many sub-funds within, like you said, NEF. There are sub-funds within it. There may be, for example, a Black Industrialist Fund. There may be a manufacturing fund. There may be this and that. So it's so you need to actually, if you're looking at yourself, you may need to talk to, like he said, to a number of people, to your own consultant. But Tendai himself is a consultant. You may want to just talk to him and see what's possible. What is your project and what is it? So these are not the only structures that are there. In particular, remember we said that you can also work together a number of structures from the different funds that can help you get where you want to get. But it's important to be daring, to be creative, and meet the requirements and say, look, there are structures and systems that empower you to do what God has called you to do, so that you make a difference in society while at the same time adding value to the community. So that is powerful. And I think yesterday you are still going. I just wanted to interject that there, but you can keep on going.
Thank you very much, Doc. Now I just wanted to go and look at the industries which are receiving most of the funding. Most people would think maybe I don't qualify because I'm into potato farming. Maybe I don't qualify because I'm into a funeral parlor. They fund almost anyone and everyone. So if you look at this pie chart, you'll see almost every industrial sector is getting something. So no matter what you are doing, I believe you do qualify for funding. As long as you are doing legit business, you are likely going to qualify. So this is just to give you some assurance, some comfort to know that you will be considered. Right. So, yeah, basically, this covers what you require and the traditional funders. And now I've got a few contact details here for people who can help you, like your IDC, your NEF, CIFA, and then FinFind. If you want further details, you can go to FinFind. There are a lot of other people out there who can help you with funding, especially now. We still have other ad hoc funds available, like COVID relief funds. We have got a lot of funds in different sectors. And recently we had the disturbances in KZN and Johannesburg. We have a number of funds which were established to help out small businesses which were affected, and those which want to go into the same areas which were looted or which were banned. So we do have all those funds. You can find them on finfind.co.za. That would be quite helpful. And then my final word, always make sure that your documentation is up to date and in order. We have challenges with people who then want to get documentation within 24 hours. And sometimes it's not possible. You end up getting fake documentation. So what I recommend you do is keep your documentation in order, your registration documents, your clearances, your letter of good standing, your certificates with your industry boards and so on. Always make sure they are up to date. That way, once you want to approach a funder, you don't have other headaches and challenges. I think that's more like what I have for today. Over to you, Doc, if you have got any other questions. Of course, I've got my contact details there if you want to contact me. You are welcome.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Tendai. And I think this has been very useful and very practical. And I want to encourage as many as are in business to look for opportunities within these funds to expand what you are doing or to grow what you're doing. There are people who are in this line of business who consult, who can help you structure, who can help you with an application. Of course, it's not for free. They will charge for it. But anybody who is in business who understands that to get value, you need to invest value. And so I would like to encourage you to consider this area of funding. And I think Tendai is a little bit humble, so he will not blow his horn. But he is in the business, and if you want to reach out to him, you can reach out to him. So before we close this section and get into the Zoom interactive session, I just wanted to ask Tendai to, if you want to just speak off the cuff about some of the major mistakes that you have seen people who are trying to access these funds make. What are the either shortcuts or mistakes that people can avoid? Because then that helps our people to begin to think about how can I avoid certain mistakes. Would you want to just talk from your experience, from your heart, and say, these are the things that I've seen people do, and these are the consequences. Instead of doing that, you do this, and so on.
The major mistake which I've seen is what I highlighted there, that you don't have your documentation in order. You are not up to date. Some don't even renew their CIPC registrations. The company is under deregistration and so on. So keep your business running, number one. Number two, make sure you bank whatever revenue you get. They will need a track record. And if you are putting your money under the pillow, it cannot be referenced to. There's no track record. So you can't declare that as part of your revenue in most cases. Bank what you get. It's very important. Develop a relationship with your banker. And then number three, also develop a personal credit record. It's very important. most people will say, I don't want to have an account, but if you don't have an account, you don't have a credit score, make sure maybe you get at least one account from Jet, which you can pay and you can buy and pay every month. That way you had a credit score. So it's very important that each one of us must have a credit score. They will look at all these things. Don't run away from credit. You will need it. Otherwise, we'll get to the same vicious circle where companies want people with experience. And where do you get experience if you don't have your first job? So if you don't have credit, you don't have experience. No one will give you additional credit. So these are some of the major mistakes which I have seen. Of course, the list is quite long, but off the cuff, like you said, we can look at those.
So thank you so much, Tendai. We really appreciate your input and the value that you have added. I pray that, guys, you found value in what we are talking about. We keep saying you need to be daring. You need to reach out and think, say, how do I add value? And in adding value, what are the vision enablers? What are the facilities enablers of my business? And so even in this, when you're in an economy like South Africa, there are opportunities that can enable you to achieve your goals, but you need to be knowledgeable. I think what Tendai was doing was just scratching the surface and whetting our appetite. Like he said, it's important for you to go and research. He has given you indications of where to know, get more information, but you can also invest by Googling and finding out what is it that is on offer. It is important. Anybody who is in business should be entrepreneurial. They know that you need to look for opportunities, you need to seek opportunities. I think he has given a number of hints there to say, look, think about agriculture. If you miss an opportunity, particularly those who are coming from north of the Limpopo, if you miss an opportunity during the land reform, here is an opportunity for having your own farming enterprise that is funded. It doesn't necessarily mean just funding. It may be even agro-processing. It may be, some people who are doing solar, for example. How about thinking about taking your business towards the rural areas where you can enable them to benefit from solar-based businesses? So there are things that we need to think. You need to think about saying, okay, where do I need to position my business? And the rural is not too far. You look around areas just outside the metropolitan area and say, how can I take my business where I can be funded, where I can get government help? How can I link up with people? Let me just say this. I think there's something that Tendai talked about that I need to just warn people about. There is a very great appetite to uplift the young Black female. Now, if you are a man and you're going to get into that line of business, I want to encourage you to make sure that you make your wife a very active partner in the business. Because we don't want, particularly as a church, to then people say, oh, it just started as a business. They were my business partner, and the business partner becomes an affair. So while it helps you in business, we need to also be careful about what we are doing. So we are not saying don't get this partnership. We are saying find a way of structuring and creating boundaries for yourself. Because one of the things that eliminates or that decimates wealth is having an illicit affair or an extramarital affair. It destroys the very purpose of why you are creating business, because it destroys wealth rather than building wealth. So it's important to say, let's look at it creatively. Let's say, what is it we can do? Where can I position my business? Which sectors are being funded? Do I have a passion for the sector? And you're not just going into the sector because you say, oh, there is the money. You know, some people say, where is the money these days? And say, I want to go where the money is. But if you don't have knowledge, if you don't have passion, if you don't have a heart for it, you will get the money, then you can't repay it because you can't run the business. So it's important to be able to do the normal due diligence, the normal opportunity-seeking processes that you do. But what we are saying in this presentation is to say, ladies and gentlemen, there are ways in which the government is keen to help you. There are ways in which you can access funds. But of course, there are conditions, there are requirements. If you are going to do something, like we said, I really want to emphasize this, to say, if you choose a partner, don't make it funding, because it will end up being illegal and you find yourself in trouble. So make sure that if you have a partner, the partner is a vital part of the business. They are funded well, and you have your agreements done quite well. And more importantly, don't go and get a partner out of the blue. You meet somebody in the street and say, would you want to be my BBE partner? You can't do that. You have to be somebody you have a relationship with, so something that you know you can work with, because once you have a partnership in business, there are going to be conflicts, and you need to be able to handle them. So these are the kinds of things that we are talking about. So ladies and gentlemen, we really want to appreciate Ms. Mutore for helping us. Thank you so much, Tendai, for such a wealth of information. I believe this will be very helpful to our members. And I want to encourage as many as who are considering this. We have benefited from Tendai. I want to encourage you to say, those who want to know more, those who want to use his custom, go to him, call him. His contacts are available. We have shown them. They're also available with us. Reach out to us and let's explore and see what can be done. But so as we close this session, Tendai has agreed to join us in a more intimate, this is a more public, so we are limited in what we can say. We can, for example, we can't deal with, somebody may have a personal question to say, you know what happens if like this, which is, so it is a public forum. But we are going to have into a Zoom interactive session where you can ask questions, you can share experiences, you can go more in detail. There are other people we have probably used this who also want to add value into the discussion. So we'll have a conversation for 40 minutes. So the details are being posted on your screen right now, and we will meet you for just 40 minutes on a Zoom interactive session. But for those who are disembarking at this stage, we thank you for joining us. We hope you found this episode of Victory Business Forum very useful, and it whetted your appetite for you to go and do your own research and begin to say, now I'm doing this. And I think I want to emphasize as we close that disclaimer that Tendai made. It's a disclaimer that is implicit in what we do. Our platform is to create awareness. It does not give specific advice and counsel. So when you pursue what we are talking about, you need to now say, okay, my eyes were opened. Now I can go and pursue and study more and understand it more. So if you do that, then you will win. But you should not go in with being uninformed. So ours is to whet your appetite, to show you what's available. And that's why today was giving us, say, here are the links, go find more detail here. You can find more detail here. These are pointers for you to go and do your own research. Always invest or do business on the basis of your own research. Ours is to just create that awareness. And I hope this helps you. So today I just want to ask you to give just one parting shot, a takeaway that you may want to give the people. Is we appreciate you and we thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Doc. My parting shot is that no matter who you are, some of us think because we are foreigners, we can't access South African government funding. But look at Johannesburg. God is unlimited. All the best to everyone.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mutore. And gentlemen and ladies, we meet you in right now on the Zoom session. Thank you so much. God bless you and bye.